Gangster to CHRISTSTAR. Some men are born into war. Others are made by it. Kelvin the Trigger didn't choose the streets chose him. Born in the heart of Lagos, he was raised in a world where poverty was a god and survival was the only prayer. His mother died from hunger, his father drowned in alcohol, and by age 10, he had learned the one truth that shaped his destiny: nobody cares. So take what you can. By 15 he had his first gun. By 19 he was running the Black Phantoms, the deadliest gang in Lagos. He was ruthless, feared, untouchable. Blood money flowed through his hands, but peace never touched his soul. The weight of his crimes haunted him at night, but the streets had taught him to silence the guilt. Weakness is death. But one night death came knocking. A drug deal had gone wrong, and the Shadow Lords, a rival gang, ambushed them. It was a massacre. Bullets rained like judgment, painting the streets with blood. One by one his men fell. Kelvin tried to run, but a bullet found his chest. He collapsed, coughing blood. Was this the end? The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was a church cross shining under the moonlight. Kelvin woke up to the sound of prayers. Not in a hospital, not in prison, but in a church. An old man sat beside him, Pastor Matthew, a former gangster himself. His eyes filled with something Kelvin had never known since he was born: mercy. "You should be dead," the man said. "But God spared you for a reason, and God has better plans for your life." Kelvin tried to laugh but winced in pain. God, where was he when my mother died? When my father left me? When I had to steal to survive? The pastor sighed. He was there, waiting for you to come home, and sometimes, suffering is the road that leads us home. For weeks, Kelvin stayed in the church, healing, not just in body but in soul. The pastor shared stories of men like Saul who became Paul, murderers who became messengers, sinners who became saints. Something cracked inside him. Anger, pain, the hate. One night, alone in the church, Kelvin fell to his knees. "God, if you're real, please save me. I'm tired of running." That night he had a dream. He saw himself standing in a graveyard, surrounded by the ghosts of his victims. But as he wept, a hand touched his shoulder. He turned and saw Jesus. His wounds bled, but his eyes were filled with love. "Come with me," Jesus said. Kelvin woke up a new man. But leaving the streets wasn't that easy. The Black Phantoms came looking for him. "You think you can just walk away?" His second-in-command, Razor, spat. "There's only one way out, the grave." Kelvin didn't flinch. "Then let me die for Christ, not for crime," Kelvin replied him. They beat him, broke his ribs, left him for dead. But death had no power over him anymore. Kelvin survived. And from that moment, he made a vow to use the same fire he once had for destruction to bring salvation. He picked up a mic instead of a gun. He turned his pain into music, his regrets into lyrics, his past into testimonies. His voice carried through ghettos and prisons, reaching gangsters, addicts, lost souls, people who once walked his path. They called him CHRISTSTAR, the gangster who became God's soldier. One night, at a crusade in Maryland, thousands came to hear him preach. But hidden in the crowd was Razor. The Black Phantoms had a message for him. A gunshot echoed. The crowd screamed. Kelvin felt the bullet tear through his shoulder. But he did not fall. With blood dripping down his arm, he grabbed the mic and spoke. "I once killed men like you. I once lived in the shadows. But Christ pulled me out. And if he can save a sinner like me, he can save you too." Silence. Then a miracle. Razor, his greatest enemy, dropped his gun and fell to his knees. Tears, regret, redemption. That night, a warlord became a worshipper. And from that day, Black Phantoms was no more. Kelvin's story reminds us that no one is beyond God's redemption. No matter how deep in sin, God's grace is deeper. Your past does not define your future. Kelvin went from murderer to minister of God, so can you. Standing for Christ takes courage. Kelvin faced death for his faith, but faith gave him life. Violence only leads to destruction. The streets take everything and give nothing. God can use your story to save others. Your testimony is someone's salvation. Kelvin's songs now echo in places where guns once ruled. His life is proof that no matter how far you've fallen, grace can lift you higher. From gangster to Christ star, this is not just a story. This is destiny rewritten. If this video inspired you, please like this video, comment, and also share it with everyone that needs to be inspired. Please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring videos and also turn on your notifications bell to be the first person to get notified when we upload our life-changing, motivational, and inspiring videos. Thank you.